Yes, the terrorists are being reinforced by many foreign fighters who come from elsewhere, who are not actually... When I look at the case of Burkina, there are many criminals who are in Burkina, but who are not Burkinabe. There are also trainers who come from many countries to teach them a lot of techniques.
But what is their interest?
But this isn't really terrorism. It's imperialism. Their goal is to keep us in a state of permanent war so that we can't develop and so they can continue to plunder our resources.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
All right, let's be real for a second. For decades, people have whispered about France's secret grip on Africa. But in 2022, one man stepped up and shouted it from the rooftops. His name? Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. Now picture this. Traore is just 34. A soldier who suddenly finds himself leading a country. But instead of playing it safe, he does the unthinkable. He calls out France. Not behind closed doors, but out in the open for the whole world to see. First, Traore told the French military, "Pack your bags." Within months, French troops who had been stationed in Burkina Faso for years were out. No more military bases, no more so-called cooperation that always seemed to benefit France just a little bit more. But Traore didn't stop there. He exposed deals made in the shadows, agreements where African resources flowed quietly to Europe, while local people barely saw the benefits. Oil, gold, cotton, all leaving Africa. But the profits? They never seemed to stick around. And if you ever wondered why some news stories sound suspiciously one-sided, Traore had an answer for that too. He accused French media of spreading propaganda, shaping the narrative to make sure France always looked like the hero, and African leaders like puppets. His courage set off shockwaves. Young people across West Africa saw what was happening and said, "Enough is enough." In cities from Bamako to Ouagadougou, crowds poured into the streets waving Pan-African flags, demanding real independence. For years, people had accepted the myth that Africa needed help, that outside powers were here to save us. Traore flipped the script. He said, "We have the power, we have the resources, we decide our future." His actions inspired leaders and youth alike to question the old ways, to ask, why are decisions about our resources made in Paris, not Ouagadougou? Why should African armies answer to foreign commanders? Why should our stories be told by someone else? Look, reclaiming sovereignty isn't easy. It comes with risks, economic threats, political backlash, and sometimes violence. But Traore's message is clear. True freedom means making your own choices, even if it means standing alone. So, what does all this mean for Africa's future? It means the era of silent control is ending. It means young Africans are waking up, refusing to be ruled from the shadows. And thanks to people like Traore, the world is finally listening. If you believe in a free Africa, don't just watch, take part. Share the story, ask questions, and let your voice be heard. The future is ours to shape.
Of the terrorists.
Could you clarify? What exactly are you referring to?
Yes, the terrorists are being reinforced by many foreign fighters who come from elsewhere, who are not actually... When I look at the case of Burkina, there are many criminals who are in Burkina, but who are not Burkinabe. There are also trainers who come from many countries to teach them a lot of techniques.
But what is their interest?
But this isn't really terrorism. It's imperialism. Their goal is to keep us in a state of permanent war so that we can't develop and so they can continue to plunder our resources. So they have every interest in bringing in specialists in mines to plant different types of mines and explosives experts. Today, the terrorists are using drones to fight and everything. So these are professionals from certain countries who come to teach them all of this. All of this is to keep us in a state of insecurity. But we are aware of the situation. We adapt each time to their methods of operation. And we will continue the fight until we have reclaimed the entire Sahel.
Are there specific countries that are funding these fighters?
All the imperialist countries are funding these fighters. There you have it. There are many of them. We can't name them individually. Some are even hidden, ones we couldn't imagine. But there are many.
There are also those who aren't hiding and openly declare it. I'm talking about the recent scandal involving support for terrorism in Mali. What is your perspective on what actually happened in Mali?
Yes, these unfortunate people have openly declared that they support the terrorists. We have also clearly noticed through a number of technologies that the terrorists have acquired that they come from them. It's unfortunate, it's very unfortunate, but still we do not pity ourselves. And we have taken stock of the situation. We will adapt to them, we will fight them, and they will not be able to win. That is what matters most to us.
How is humanitarian cooperation between Burkina Faso and Russia progressing?
It is going very well. I think there is a lot of exchange in many areas. For example, in the field of health, because we still have displaced people there. And when we talk about a camp for displaced people, it means that there are often complicated health situations. I think the health services are cooperating well to support the humanitarian action service so that we can move forward. As you saw in 2023, I believe Russia donated wheat to Burkina Faso. This was intended solely for displaced persons. But we made a promise to President Putin that we no longer wish to be supplied with wheat because we are going to produce our own wheat. And I am keeping that promise because we are going to start producing our own wheat in sufficient quantities to meet our needs, which means that cooperation in this area is leading us to develop ourselves, to boost many things, so that we can fill the gaps.
In light of current geopolitical tensions, particularly the tariff war between the United States and China, how is Burkina Faso adapting its economic and diplomatic strategy?
Well, this world is in constant flux. Often, the things we see are just madness. We have to stay alert and be able to adapt at any moment. And that's very important because we keep up with current events. There is an economic battle going on almost everywhere, but as far as we're concerned, we trade with China without any issues. We buy a lot of goods from China, and the Chinese also buy many things from us. There are Chinese companies setting up in our country, despite people trying to disparage Burkina Faso. It's the same with Russia right now. So all the countries that are currently fighting for their economic independence, we try to collaborate more closely with these countries because it's a form of oppression from imperialism. Those who are oppressed need to unite to stand up to this hegemony. So, in principle, we adapt to all these situations.
Mr. President, what is your view on the recent deterioration of relations with Algeria?
Well, you have followed the events, and I think everyone understands how this works. We regret the incident that happened at the border with Algeria, with the drone that they shot down. It must be said clearly, that's not friendly. It's not friendly because you don't just shoot down an aircraft like that. Everyone knows the protocol, and so there's no need to kid ourselves. If an aircraft crosses your border, even if it enters your country, you identify it. Radars allow you to identify it, and you know which country it belongs to. And that's what diplomatic relations are for. You contact the embassy. There are defense attachés. There are many mechanisms in place. You reach out to them, and they can confirm whether it's their aircraft or not, and whether it's on the territory. Because of, that's it. Maybe it needs help, or maybe it lost, its bearings and all that. Because an aircraft can be in the air, it might have problems with the weather, and it has to hide behind the clouds. That happens very often in our countries. So an aircraft enters, we ask about it, and they say no. There are a lot of cloud covers, but in any case, there's some meteorological phenomenon that causes it to pass through. It might have a technical problem. It might ask for help so that we can guide it to land. So there are so many factors that can cause an aircraft to end up in a given airspace. We don't shoot down an aircraft automatically. That situation happened to us. We've often seen an American aircraft enter our territory doing reconnaissance and all that. We didn't shoot down the aircraft. We made sure to contact the American embassy, which took a few minutes. They confirmed to us that it was their device, and they cleared the space. So we don't shoot down an aircraft automatically. So shooting down the aircraft is a deliberate, unfriendly act, and it's regrettable.
But if I understand correctly, you're not closing the door to dialogue, are you?
No. Leaders need to understand that we have no choice but to unite in the face of this so-called terrorism. Because it's a rather complex phenomenon. I'm telling you, Burkina was just sitting and watching Mali back in 2012. What were we doing? The regime in power at the time was friendly with those people. Some of them even lived in Ouagadougou. Yag lived in Ouagadougou. That's the reality. But what's happening today? They've turned against us. They're not free people. They're manipulated by the imperialists, and the orders they're given, they pass on to their criminals on the ground, and they carry them out. So everyone needs to understand that we must unite to face this. There's no possible negotiation with those people.
Precisely.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.